the enemy had over Israel. Come on, somebody talk to me.
Amen.
Amen.
Talk to me, please.
This is very interesting.
But with the information that she was providing him, this daughter of Timnath of the Plishtim, he was well pleased. This is good information. This is good inside military intelligence. Can I get a witness?
Amen.
Verse 8. When I don't finish today, I'll finish on Rosh Chodesh.
Come on, come on. You good.
Shoftim 14:8. And after a time he returned to take her where? Be his wife. And he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion that he had ripped apart. And see, there was, here come the bees, there's the bee line. There was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. What does the lion represent, Wilbur? Demons of opposition, obstacles that will immediately come to put fear and doubt and unbelief into your mind when you hear the word of Yahuwah and you fail to act upon the word of Yahuwah. You got to bind and slay and kill and strangle that spirit of fear, doubt, and unbelief. Just this last week, I was in Orlando, and I came back, and I had to deal with a lion spirit of fear, doubt, and unbelief. We all have to deal with it.
Amen.
So how do you deal with a lion spirit of fear, doubt, and unbelief? You strangle, slay, and tear asunder, and give it no mind, and give it no meditation, and put it under your feet, according to Luke 10:16, because he has given you, the Talmidim of Yeshua, the power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means harm you. And after a time he returned, he took her, he saw the lion, verse 9. He took some of the bees in his honey in his hand. He went on eating. And he came back to his Abba and his Ima, and he gave them to eat, saying, hey, see the sweetness of my victory? See the sweetness of my dominion? And they did eat of the sweetness of his victory, and the sweetness of his dominion and his leadership.
That was a long
In other words, they benefited from his leadership even though they didn't understand it.
Correct.
Meaning a child can lead the parents if the child is led by the Ruach and the parents cannot see in the Ruach what the child sees in the Ruach. The child can lead his parents to truth and feed them off of his discernment, his insight, his obedience, his blessedness, and his calling. Now my mom and dad don't walk the way I walk, Rabbi. Who cares? You go and preach the kingdom. You go and be obedient and let Yahuwah, let them eat the honey that you are going to bring forth in your life by obeying. They will one day be glad to eat of your honey.
Amen.
Of your seed, of your children, of your posterity. They will be glad one day to eat of your honey. Honey.
Yeah.
So they went on eating. Notice, they didn't just taste the honey. They were, for lack of a better term, I know this is not a Hebraic term, you will forgive me, they would pig it out. They would pig it out on that honey. Goodness gracious. Can you imagine a bunch of Israelite mom and dads pigging out on honey? Because they were benefiting from the obedience of their child. Yes. That's what these women were all about, to raise up Samson, to give dominion back to Israel. But he told them not that he had taken the honey from the carcass of the lion. In other words, they didn't need to know the spiritual warfare details. He spared them the spiritual warfare they were not willing to engage in. They couldn't understand why he wasn't taking a woman for sex from the children of his people. Honey is sweet, listen, brothers and sisters, when you obey Yahuwah. And when Yahuwah sovereignly overcomes your enemies for you, victory and honey is sweet. Canaan is called the land flowing with milk and honey. Eretz zavat chalav u'devash. Honey is symbolic of obedient victory. Again, this message, Shimshon and his victories. Shimshon and his victories. Verse 10. So his Abba went down to the woman, and Shimshon there made a feast. For this is what the young men used to do. Isn't that interesting? Let's follow this. Verse 11. It came to pass when they saw him, they brought 30 chaverim to be with him. Oh, now his parents are on board. Aren't these the same parents that didn't understand why he was making shittach with a woman among the Philistines? Now they're not only setting up a wedding, they're paying for the wedding because they've eaten the sweetness of his obedience. In other words, what's the moral here? When Yahuwah tells you to do something, the young lions will immediately come to bring fear, doubt, and unbelief. But if you're faithful, though we sometimes are faithless, he remains faithful because he cannot deny himself. When you are faithful to obey and the word of Yahuwah, when it contradicts the words of your friends, your brothers, your sisters, your mom, and your dad, eventually when a man's ways please Yahuwah, he makes even his enemies to be in shalom with him.
Amen.
And even if the enemies are those of his own house, mom and dad, brother and sister, they're starting out as your opponents, but they'll wind up eating the sweetness of your obedience and the seed of your obedience, and then they will not only, listen, they will not only come to the wedding of your children and grandchildren, they will pay for it, plan it, organize it, and put it on.
Okay.
Yeah.
You hear me?
I hear you.
You are responsible for doing the right thing. Mom, dad, brother, wife, irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant when it comes to the kingdom.
Amen.
That's right.
Yeshua's brothers were hopeless and worthless when it came to the kingdom, except for his resurrection. His mother was too busy crying, and his father was dead. You don't need your relatives to make an impact on the kingdom and to make an impact in the things of Yahuwah. You go and be obedient.
Amen.
And eventually they will follow or not follow.
That's right.
Let's continue.
That's right.
And Shimshon said to them, look at verse 12. Shimshon said to them, I will put forth a riddle. Now I've always wondered, was he the original guy on Batman? Because I didn't know the name of the guy who used to play the Riddler. Later on I found out he was some Jewish dude. Caesar something. Right? Somebody. Whoever it was. But maybe Shimshon was one of the original Riddlers. Or he was the original. And he said, I will put forth a riddle if you can declare to me within 7 days of the feast. Notice, weddings in those times was how many days?
7.
7 days.
Some today are still.
I'm going to put out a riddle, and it's for you to find out the answer, and I will give you 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments to his 30 friends. If you cannot declare it, verse 13, Shoftim 14:13. If you cannot declare the riddle, you'll give me 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. And they said to him, go ahead, put forth your riddle, we may hear it. Ancient weddings were done for 7 days. After the pattern of the Moadim of Matzot and Sukkot. Shimshon put forth his riddles to see, listen, I always wonder, you ever say why he was such a joker? Why the Riddler was such a joker? Did you ever wonder why the Riddler was acting like a joker? What's all this with Shimshon's riddles, Wilbur? Why is this in the word of Yahuwah? Oh, the dude was a joker, you know. He liked to say riddles. What? Okay, Yahuwah, why don't you explain to me what's that doing in the word? So what? The man had a good sense of humor. Or the man put forth riddles, parables. So what? Shittach, arranged marriages. So what? Taking foreign women as wives. So what? What is the purpose? The purpose is he knew that he was more than a conqueror through the Mashiach Yeshua. And we know that we are more than conquerors regardless of the lions that wait us. He will turn the most ferocious lion into a belly full of honey and take the bitterness of the waters of Meribah and put the tree of sacrifice in the waters of Meribah and turn the waters into sweetness. If you're faithful to him. Not if you do everything right. Not if you get everything right. If you're faithful to him. And part of being faithful to him is being faithful to those in your life that he put there for you to be faithful to.
Amen.
You cannot divorce faithfulness to those who he's put in your life to be faithful to and then claim to be faithful to Yahuwah.
You need to say that again.
I don't know if I could. You're right, I do, but I don't know if I could recapture every word. So he says, tell me this riddle. So this feast, this wedding is designed for 7 days. So if let me stop here, Vladimir. Let me stop here. Let me think. Now wait a second, time out.